Welcome to Grit, the Real Estate Growth Mindset podcast, hosted by Brian Charlesworth, founder of Sisu. Sisu provides growth automation software for real estate. You'll hear stories from real estate thought and technology leaders, team owners, and brokers on how they grew their business in a rapidly changing industry. You'll learn how to transform your brokerage and teams into a high-performing and analytics-driven business so you have a new, durable, competitive advantage against disruption in your market. So let's get right into it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Grit Podcast. I'm Brian Charlesworth. I'm the founder of Sisu and your host of the show. And if you don't know, Sisu made a small announcement this week. You guys might want to check this out, where we now have a new client portal where basically your clients, you can communicate with them easily and they can see every step along the road of the transaction process. So anyway, it's something you guys may want to check out. You can go to the sisu.co website and look at our latest blog, and that'll give you some more information on that. So today I have a special guest with me here. It's fun. I love getting some guests like we have today. It's fun for me to be able to have conversations and ask people like Sajag the questions I get to ask. So today I'm here with Sajag Patel. He is the Vice President of Segments with KW, and that's a new role for Sajag. So we're going to learn more about that today. So Sajag, did you grow up in Pittsburgh, or you graduated from Pittsburgh, or how did you? And before you answer that, I also saw that you have an engineering background. You used to be a senior developer. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So I actually grew up outside of State College, Pennsylvania, the home of the Nittany Lions, in a little town called Phillipsburg, Pennsylvania. And I went to school at the University of Pittsburgh, where I graduated with a degree in information science, and started my career working for a startup company doing software development.
Okay, so what do I need to do to get you to come work with Sisu?
That was my old life. I've gone through many career changes since then, but it was a fun time of my life. We, created online digital portfolios for higher education. So, being able to provide solutions for institutions and colleges and then college students so that they can actually create digital portfolios to carry their work through. That was a fun thing to do at the age of 21, to actually be the lead developer and one of 3 developers that was able to develop and release a web application that had over 100,000 users.
Wow. Congratulations. How long were you there?
I was there for 4 years.
And that was straight out of college? You did that?
Straight out of college. And it's a funny story. So going through college, my parents struggled putting me through school. So I had 3 jobs going through college. And my senior year was when I changed my degree over to information science. And I said, you know what? Medical field isn't for me, and I'm going into IT. So I was desperate to learn, and I was eager, and I'm growth minded. So switched my career, and I was working in the computer labs at that time, and I really started enjoying coding. So I started going to look for intern opportunities, and no one was taking me on because I had no experience. And so one of the interviews I went into was this startup, and I was up against 2 Carnegie Mellon graduates. And I just told the company owner, I said, look, I just want an opportunity. And if that means that you don't pay me and I work for free for the next 3 months, I'm all in. And that's how I got started. I actually beat out 2 Carnegie Mellon graduates, and it was intriguing for them because I said I'd work for free, and they got the best out of me for 90 days. And
did they make you work for free that first 90 days?
Oh yeah. They gave me a 1,200 page ASP book, and I learned how to code an ASP, which I'd never done before. And they said, we want you to go build out an intranet site. And I read it, I developed it, delivered it to them in 30 days. And they said, okay, now go start prototyping this. And they gave me their desktop application that they were doing in VB. And they asked me to go make it into a web application. I said, okay. Started prototyping it out, and 60 days in, I was making really good headway, and they offered me a full-time job.
Okay. So, and you become their head developer after that, and you did this for 4 years. You guys had 100,000 users, which congratulations. That's awesome. And then What happened to that? Because it sounds like you were on the path for success, and for success in that segment, right? So what happened? What happened then?
Yeah. So, working for a startup's not the easiest thing. I'm sure you know that, right? So, funds are always limited. And, I turned down a lot of jobs before I took on that opportunity. So with that internship, so with the experience that I had gained, I tell the story because I remember it so clearly, like it was yesterday. I had 52 first round interviews from the job fair at college. And I started doing the interviews and getting called out and flown all over the country for the second interviews. And I had multiple offers from several big companies, including Deloitte, with much higher pay than what this company was paying me. And I turned them all down because I wanted something that I could own. I didn't want to be a part of a big team. I wanted something that I could build and be a part of. And so I turned down all the big dollars and started working for these guys. But, I got burnt out. When you're a senior developer and only one of three engineers on a project and, college web applications, delivering it before school starts every year in August and revamping new versions of it, it's a lot of work. And working 7 days a week, 18-hour days and going home just to sleep at the age of 21, 22, 23, 24, you're missing out on a lot of life. And so, I got into a really bad car accident one night driving home from work after a really long day, after we had just done a major release, and totaled my car. And I was like, I'm done. That was it. And my dad's like, you're done. He's like, we need to go and get into business together. And my dad had just sold his hotel that I'd grown up in the hotel business. And then we ended up buying one together in Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay. So you went from it sounds like developing was a great career for you, but then you were on burnout, you were with a startup, and then you get in an accident. You're like, that's the sign. Like, I need to do something else here. And I'm actually reading the David Goggins book right now. I don't know if you've read that, but
I've read it.
As we talk about, the thing about this podcast is, the name of it's Grit, right? And it's so fascinating for me to just see what everyone's path has been in their journey, because we all have a different journey. And I think from the outside, everyone looks at everybody else's journey and thinks, they had it easy. Why couldn't I get there like they did? And, usually the most successful people I've noticed have the biggest challenges, right? They had the biggest challenges growing up. Or maybe even, as an adult, any entrepreneur like me has had multiple failures, right? So you start you now get into the hotel business with your dad. You own a hotel. And was that a franchise? You guys were part of a franchise, or?
Yeah, so we bought a small independent franchise group that had gone belly up. So, when we took it over, getting the financing for a property that was failing was tough, but I got to experience a lot. So my dad let me take the reins on it, and I went out and secured the financing to go buy the property. We did $1.5 million renovation on it, franchised it. And I took a failing business that was doing about $600,000 in business and turned it into 1.3 million in 3 years. And we did it because we focused on customer service. And when you focus on customer service and delivering an experience, that keeps customers coming back. So growing up in the hotel business, I knew that, customer service is how my dad built it. And that's just something that was ingrained in me, is always taking care of the clients, making it right. So it was fun. And then, after hitting that revenue point, I kind of got bored. I'm like, there's got to be something else. And so I made a hire, put a general manager in place. And I said, you know what? I want to go start a coffee shop. Started a coffee shop, another franchise. It was a newer franchise. Learned a lot of lessons because it didn't work out. The coffee franchise actually filed bankruptcy 2 times in the 3.5 years that I owned it. And we were one of the only ones in Ohio. So I was given something that wasn't really going to work out at the end. We had great customers. We were delivering great service, but the amount that I was paying in franchise fees and marketing fees, we weren't seeing the value. Mm-hmm. So I ended up walking away from that, lost $250,000 of hard-earned money, and said, okay, got to start over. Yeah. And I still had the hotel at that time. And to top it all off, the manager that I put in place wasn't the right hire. So he took my business that I'd built up to 1.3 and took it all the way down to about 850. So I said, okay, I guess I got to turn that back around. Took it back over, and within 18 months, I took it back to doing 1.2 million. And in the midst of that, I also bought another hotel and bought it with some partners, and we turned that hotel around, ended up selling it, sold this one, bought another one. And in 2009, it was a joke. And that's what led me into real estate. It was me and my two partners at the time that when we bought my second hotel, they're like, we buy hotels, we sell them. We all know how to do this. And we pay a lot of money to these commercial real estate agents that don't know anything. And we've actually owned and operated, and we do this. Why don't we get into real estate? Well, we all know what happened in 08, 09. And it was probably the worst time to get into real estate.
That's when you got in, right? Was 09?
That's when I got in.
Yeah.
And the worst time to do commercial real estate, let alone real estate, right?
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I bought a franchise. I was the franchisor, not the franchisee, of Housemaster. So we had 200 and something locations when I bought it. And anyway, as you know, when real estate crashes, home inspections crash. So It was not the right time to buy that business either. But
we all joked about it. So that led us to going to real estate school. So I went to real estate school. They actually started before me. Then I started. I ended up getting my license first. Got my license, and I was with an independent broker for 6 months. And I'm one of those that needs to learn a lot before I'm going to go take care of someone, because I want to make sure I give them the best service. So I just sat there, mentored him. Didn't do any transactions for 6 months. And I'm like, okay, there's got to be something better. Like, I need to do something. And every day, though, when I was driving to this independent broker that was 30 minutes away, 2 minutes away from my house was a Keller Williams office that I drove by every day. And so it was Thanksgiving Eve. And that morning I drove by, and on the way home, I said, you know what? I'm transferring my license. Walked into the Keller Williams office, and the TL wasn't there, OP wasn't there, but an interim MCA was there. And I walked in and said, I want to transfer my license. And she's like, who have you been talking to? And I said, no one. And she's like, you just want to transfer your license? I said, yes. Can I transfer my license? Okay. So she sat down with me. We did the paperwork. I transferred the license. That's how I came to Keller Williams.
Wow.
I wasn't recruited.
If it were just always that easy to bring someone like you into it.
So, I tell the story because, for where I'm at right now, I wasn't recruited. I just walked in one day.
Yeah, which is very, very uncommon in real estate for those of you listening who are not in real estate. So then you come into Keller Williams as still a very new agent. And obviously KW has great training. So you went along those lines, and tell me about your real estate from there. What happened?
Yeah. So I came in, and you just mentioned the great training. That's what I did. I went to every training there was in the first 60 days, went through Keller Williams University, got online, watched all their videos, went to every in-person training there was. And I just immersed myself and ended up being rookie of the year the very first year, and I joke about it because I left an IT job. I got out of the hotel business, lost a lot of money. In my first year, I was rookie of the year, sold 23 homes, and I made $18,000 at the end of the day. And I was like, what the heck? I'm like, I can't live off of this. But the housing market crashed in Cleveland. My average sales price was $55,000.
Oh, wow. I was thinking, how did you sell that 20 something homes, 23 or 28? What was it?
23 homes.
23 homes and only make $18,000. That doesn't seem possible. But the average price point of 55,000?
55,000.
Wow, that's insane.
Yeah.
So now you're questioning, do I need to get out of real estate?
Yeah. So, I'm questioning it. And I went to Bold, the 7-week, 8-week course back then that Keller Williams offers. And I said, okay, I'm not quitting. I don't quit. So I'm going to keep going. And I got into it, and I had a great coach that for that 8 weeks, went through it. My business went up that year. I went from 23 transactions to doing 37. But something important happened during that time. And that was, I experienced my very first Red Day. And Red Day is the day that Keller Williams takes off. It's the culture of KW that Mo Anderson started.
This is what makes people bleed red, right?
This is what makes people bleed red. Yeah. And so,
tell us about that day.
So that Red Day was the very first one that I was a part of, and we were giving back to veterans. And we were going from home to home. We did 12 homes that day, just landscaping, enhancing the outside of each one of these veteran homes, shaking hands with them, thanking them for their service. And it was just one of those experiences that touched you. And so the following year I said, you know what, 12 was great, but we've got an office of over 150 agents. Like, we can do more than that. And so I took it over the following year and we doubled it. We did 24 homes. And, it was the one day that I looked forward to every single year because it just made everything worthwhile.
What is it about? I think this is always true, right? When you focus on others instead of yourself, somehow it brings you, happiness, peace. Like, what is it about that, Sajag, that just like hits you?
Yeah, I think it's the stories, right? It's the relationships that you get to create with people, the relationships that I created with those veterans by getting to know them, understanding their story, hearing their story, and just how they were treated when they came back from war. We had World War II Korean veterans. We had two, actually, World War I. And it was crazy, the stories and how they were treated. And, at that point in my life, I was just so thankful that, because my parents were immigrants and coming here and the freedom and just the challenges that we'd gone through, but then to have an opportunity to actually go meet with some of these veterans and hearing their stories, it made my story like, you know what? I haven't gone through anything yet.
Yeah.
And it just made me appreciate everything that they had done even more.
It seems like when I was a kid, I remember several experiences where I witnessed people taking veterans for granted.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm grateful that our culture isn't that way anymore, right? I think in general, our population is extremely grateful and, stands up to applaud them, if they get announced at an event so I think that's changing, but there's still got to be some of that, right, going on where people just don't treat them the way they should be treated.
Yeah. And that became my passion project, right? So Red Day was the one thing that I took over, and I literally, the way that I ran it, it was like a business to me. Like I would actually take 2 months out of my real estate business to focus on doing Red Day and making sure that we created the best experience for those veterans. And we were able to serve as many as we could, to the point where the last year that I did it, we did 256 veteran homes in one day. We fed 1,000 homeless veterans, and we partnered with Home Depot. They gave us a big grant for supplies. We generated tons of local donations from landscapers for all the mulch and everything. We had over 1,000 volunteers. And I was able to get all of our market centers in Northeast Ohio to work together for that one single day.
That's incredible.
It was the most amazing experience that you can imagine.
So that was kind of your hook into KW, right? I mean, you were like, wow, this company cares. This company gives back. And this is something I want to be a part of.
Yeah. I always tell people, like, money's great, right? Money, everyone needs money. But what you can do with it, that's what gives us significance. And for me, I don't need to live a big fancy life. For me, it's what am I able to do with it? And, later on, I'll tell you like my big why and why I do what I do today, because I don't need to have a job.
So why not tell us now? Like, what is that big why? I want to know this.
Yeah. So, I think it was in 2017, 2018, I heard Gary say, you can be anywhere you want in life, right? Anywhere you want in 5 years. Just have to build a plan around it. And for me, I wanted to get to a place where I had enough rental properties where it would give my family enough money to be able to live our lifestyle that we currently have, but then also so that I can actually go create educational opportunities for kids. I know what I went through growing up and what my parents went through to try to put me through school. And I just want to go give those kids that don't have that fortune to go to college, don't have the ability to have schooling, and to be able to go make that happen for him. And initially it started out that I wanted to go on mission trips to actually go educate kids. And then in 2019, when I came into Keller Williams to work here at corporate, when Monica Reynolds brought me in, I told her, look, I don't need a job. And if I do commit to it, I already know when I'm quitting. It's December 31st, 2021. She's like, what do you mean? How do you know? And I said, because I built my plan and my investment plan that gets me there. And I had a countdown, and I showed her my phone, and that had the countdown to December 31st, 2021. And she's like, oh my God. And then her coaching started. And she coached me, and she's like, look, how many kids do you want to impact? And I said, as many as I can. Well, she's like, you're not going to be able to do it if you do it on your own. She's like, why don't you think bigger? She's like, what if you had the money to go hire people to go make a bigger impact? And that's when I'm like, okay, I didn't think about that. Because for me, it was never about money or making more money. It was always about what can I personally do to give back? Mm-hmm. And when she coached me to it, it changed the way I looked at things. And for me, then it became, okay, well, how do I get to impacting 100,000 kids? Because it's not cheap.
Yeah. And
then, so this past year, December 31st is actually gone now, right?
Yeah, I was just going to say, here we are in 2022.
And I'm still here. I'm still here. And I hit my goal of the number of doors that I needed on August 13th.
Congratulations.
That was to hit 100 doors. I hit it 4 months and 17 days earlier than what I expected. It's funny how things happen. And then the week later, I ended up finding a Facebook friend from high school who was actually in a mission trip in Uganda helping kids. And everything started to line up. And that was the first time that I was able to actually start creating educational opportunities for kids, to the point where right now we have 22 kids that have this entire year of schooling paid for in Uganda.
That's awesome.
And that's the first of 22, or, the first 22 of 100,000.
Wow.
And so now I have a new goal, is in the next 10 years, I need to get to 1,000 doors so I can put 100,000 kids through school.
So you're not stopping at 100. You're going to 1,000 doors. And the reason you'll get there is because it's not about you. It's about others. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's such an important message, Sajag. Like, we could just end this podcast right now. And if people would just learn that, if people would just focus on everybody else, think what a different world this would be.
Yeah. And Brian, I have a crazy routine, and it's crazy. I'm up at 3:00 every day.
So this is your daily routine. Let's go through that.
I'm up at 3:00 every morning. And the very first thing I do when I wake up and after I'm done brushing my teeth is I sit down in front of a computer and I'm researching investment properties. And every day I'm running numbers on investment properties. And every week I have at least 2 to 3 requests for packages from brokers all across the country, and I'm running numbers.
So where are you buying these properties? All over the US, or where are they at?
Right now, they're all in Ohio, and okay. I have expanded that search to all over the country. The biggest thing I found is, reading The Millionaire Real Estate Investor that Gary wrote. That book has been my Bible. And it's in the very first 2 chapters, he says you have to define your criteria. When you're clear on your criteria, it's easy to say no. You don't get emotional around the properties or the deals. And I got really clear, and I know what fits my box. I've created a spreadsheet that actually has my entire plan laid out, how many doors I need to buy every single year, what criteria they need to match. And if they don't fit that, I don't buy it. And it's as simple as that. And that's exactly how I scaled from 5 doors in 2018. Yeah, 2018 to 103 doors right now where I'm at.
So I'm guessing you have a team of people now going out and working this business, helping you buy these properties, that kind of stuff?
No, I do it on my own.
You do it all?
Yep.
Wow. Okay. I've never I've never seen that before. I mean, I know.
I run my own numbers. I put my own offers together. That's mine. That's one thing I don't give up. I'm a control freak. I do have property managers that are managing these properties. Not all of them. I still manage 17 of them. Yet the rest of them are all managed by a property manager.
Okay. So I need to go back to your daily routine because obviously the only way you could do this is to have, I don't know, 18-hour days, or what time do you go to bed at night?
I'm usually in bed between 8 and 9 every day.
Okay. So you're in bed between 8 and 9. You're up at 3. So you are getting 6 hours of sleep. You're researching homes until when?
Usually takes me about an hour.
Okay.
Then I go work out every single day, work out.
So 4 o'clock, you're working out. What kind of workout? What does your workout schedule look like?
I'm either running, I'm lifting, or I'm on the Peloton.
Okay. So when you lift, you go to a gym or do you do that at home?
Everything's at home.
Okay. So you have a tonal as well?
I got a tonal. I've got a Peloton, the bike and the treadmill.
Very nice. Isn't the tonal amazing? I mean, I'm not sponsored by Tonal, but Tonal, if you want to give me a sponsorship here, I am a huge fan. Like, I use Tonal.
I am too.
Pretty much every day.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and as soon as I'm done with my workout, sometimes I'll sit down and read, or I'll get ready and start heading into the office. I'm usually in the office by 6 o'clock, 6:30.
So before you go there, when you run, which you're either biking, you're cycling, working out, or running, when you're exercising, what do you usually listen to?
Whatever's on the bike or the treadmill. Every now and then, before I got my Peloton treadmill, I would listen to books.
Okay.
That was my way of reading and getting caught up. Or every now and then I listen to podcasts when I'm driving into work.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
But for me, the biggest, that routine has been with me for over 5 years. And it's when I became super clear on what I needed to do to become that person who can make this happen.
If you've been enjoying Grit, please help us continue to grow the channel by leaving a 5-star review and sharing it with a friend. Now back to Grit.
This is awesome. So you work out. What time do you finish your workout?
Usually right around 5:15.
Okay, so here it is, 5:15. You've already had several hours of a day. You've already worked out. You've already fed your mind. You've already found whatever properties you need to find that day. Most people are still in bed. And what happens next?
Yeah, I get showered. I eat my breakfast and I'm out the door.
Okay. So when you go out the door, where do you live now?
In Austin.
You're in Austin. That's what I thought. So you're out the door by what time?
Usually right between 5:45, latest 6 o'clock.
Okay. So how far from the office do you live?
About 35 minutes.
Okay. So by 6:30, you're in the office every day.
Yep.
Okay. So you're the first one in the office.
Pretty much.
Okay. This is incredible. So you get to the office and what does your day look like then?
Yeah. So I still coach a lot of our top agents across the country. So, between usually 6 and 8:30, most mornings I'm coaching. I get in and I coach some of our top real estate business owners across the country. That's my time to pour into others.
Okay. So we'll come back to this, but so in the morning from 6 to 8 or whatever that looks like, you're now coaching other people, once again, giving back. How did you get into MAPS coaching? Like we didn't go through that story yet. I wanted to get there, but we went off track here, which is great. But Tell me, how did this alignment with MAPS coaching happen in 2019?
Yeah. So, I got to go back to when I was a coach, right? So, in 2015, my MAPS coach at that time, Abe Shreve, actually, as he was coaching me one day, just said, "Have you ever considered being a coach?" And I'm like, "Abe, you're crazy. I have no qualities of being a coach." And he's like, "I think you do. You just don't know it." And so he got me to go complete the application. I went through the process. I became a coach. And before I knew it, I fell in love with it. And it became a really big part of my business. And so I still had my real estate team. Even today, I still have my real estate team.
How big's your team?
It's only 4 people. We did 25 million and 100 units last year.
Okay.
But it's running on its own.
I had no idea you had a real estate team.
Yep. Still have it today. So started it in 2011 and it's still there today. I'm just not in it.
But I would venture to say you're a better coach because you have that.
Yes. And, going through the time from when I became a coach, I went all in. I don't do anything half-assed. I hope that's okay to say.
Yeah, that's great.
But I really became passionate about it just because of my experiences. Right, I had some bad coaches, and I was like, man, for the money that you pay, if you have a bad experience, like you got to do something about it. So I didn't want to be that bad coach for someone, and I'm like, I need to be a great coach. So I went all in. I had the amazing opportunity to be mentored by Tony DeCello. And he took me under his reins, and, there was a small group of us, and Tony just poured into us. And, it wasn't long before I became a head coach with MAPS. Then I became an executive coach. And then once I became an executive coach, 2019 came around and Monica brought me into MAPS.
So what is an executive? What is a head coach? Like, how many are there? Let's talk about MAPS for a minute. How many coaches are there? How many executive coaches, head coaches? What does that process look like? Because people in KW probably understand this. People outside of KW have no clue what you're talking about right now.
Sure. So between our MAPS coaches, in MAPS, we have one-on-one coaches, we have group coaches, and we have bold coaches. So that entire community is almost 250 coaches right now. And when I got in, they had maybe 4 or 5 head coaches. When I became a head coach, we had a total of about 10. And there was only 2 executive coaches at that time, and that was Tony DeCello and Monica Reynolds.
Okay.
And the way that you get the right to become an executive coach is you have a wait list of people who want to be coached by you. You don't just get the right to go say, I'm going to be an executive coach, because when you're an executive, you're charging more to the client because people are wanting to be in your schedule. That's giving you the right to go charge more.
See, and I knew this was a much bigger deal than you made it out to be. Like, you were just like, yeah, I was an executive coach.
Yeah, because it's never about me, right? It's about who you're able to make a big difference in. And so once I became that executive coach, again, it was the people that I started coaching, I just loved coaching. And with the business experience that I had, I was able to help people really run their real estate practices as businesses. Instead of just accidentally succeeding, they knew why they were succeeding because they knew their numbers. Right? They were reviewing P&Ls. They were highly profitable. We went from not being profitable to being profitable, watching conversion rates, which Sisu becomes a really critical piece of this later on in the picture, right?
Yes,
so when you know your numbers and hey, how many appointments do I need to go on? What's based on my conversion rate in order to hit the financial goals that I have? Everything else becomes easier. It's clear. You know what activities you need to focus on in order to get the results that you want.
What year was this that you became an executive coach?
It was in 2018.
Okay. All right. So now you've given us the backstory. So then you become an executive coach, and then you aligned with MAPS Coaching Corporate, right? Didn't you? So what was the next phase of that evolution?
Yeah. So actually at that time, we were at the home of the leader at that time. We were at his home, and we were at a retreat, and we were doing an exercise, and we all broke into little task forces, and Monica and myself ended up on a task force. And we had an assignment to go figure out the pathway to becoming a millionaire real estate coach. Now, we've heard Gary write the book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. Yeah,
everyone knows the MREA book, but I don't know that everyone knows about this book.
Yeah, there is no book, right? So the Millionaire Real Estate Coach was something that Monica and I worked on together. And, she was one of the very first millionaire coaches. Not too many people know about that. And so, when we worked on the project together, I didn't know Monica. She didn't know me, even though we were head coaches together and we were executive coaches. We just never crossed paths and decided to build any sort of a relationship. So when we worked on that project together, that was the first time that we actually started communicating. And I'm one of those, I'm not very patient. So I went and figured out how to make it happen, put a spreadsheet together, presented it to her on a Saturday morning, because that's when we would have our touch base call. So it was Saturday morning. And I came onto the call and I had it all done. And she's like, I'm going wherever you go. And I said, okay, I'm not sure where I'm going, but that's cool. Didn't mean anything to me. And then July of that year in 2019, she actually called me on her way to Austin and said, I'm going into Gary's office to tell him I'm taking the job of being the VP of Maps. And she's like, I'm taking you with me. And I said, what does that mean? She's like, you're coming with me. Is there any reason why you wouldn't? And I said, Monica, I know when I'm leaving. I don't need a job. Tell me, why would I go back to having a corporate job? I'm happy with doing what I'm doing, coaching, running my real estate business. And I still had my hotel. I said, I really don't need it. And I said, by the way, my pathway with all these investments is going really well too, that I don't know if I really want to do this. And she's like, well, you're doing it. And so, it was that moment where I said, you know what? Okay. I'm all about helping others. I want to make a bigger impact. I'll do it. I'll do it until the 31st of December of 2021. That gave her enough time to coach me, like I mentioned earlier, to thinking bigger. And it didn't take long. I think it took her like maybe 4 months, if that, to coach me to think bigger and to say, okay, I'll stay longer.
But it's interesting, obviously we work with thousands of teams here, and all the most successful team owners, right? All the most successful agents, they all have a coach, right?
Yep.
They have someone holding them accountable and helping them think bigger. Because sometimes when you're in your own world, you don't see that these people over here can see by looking into your life. And it's true for all of us. Like we all live in this little world where we see things through our own perception or perspective. And somebody else can look in on our lives and say, wait a minute, why are you doing this? Right.
Yep.
And that little shift can mean the world, right? It can mean everything.
Well, coaches make all the difference in the world. I don't think people see it that way. Right. Most people see having a coach as an expense. And I look at it as I'm making an investment in myself.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And I mean, I spend a lot of money on coaching every year, a lot. And I attribute a lot of the success that I've had because of the coaching that I've received and the way that they've been able to help me think differently, show me a different perspective that I may not be thinking about. Because without that, we all have our own blind spots.
Yeah.
Right. We don't know what we don't know, but that's what a coach is there for.
Yeah. This was a great lesson for me. I've been married to Spring now for 7 years, and pretty much every year since we've been married, she spends over $100,000 a year on her. Right. And what that means is coaching, masterminds, whatever it is, right? Advisors, just to, learn and grow. Right. So investing in yourself also lets you invest in others. Right. It's kind of like putting your mask on first when you're in the airplane.
Yep.
Now you can make a difference for others, which is why you invest in yourself as well. Because I know it's not about you. It's about making a difference for others.
Well, my morning routine tells you that I invest in myself first. It starts with me. If I'm not able to pour into myself every single morning, I can't pour into others. And I tell people, if my morning routine is ever out of sync, I'm probably not at 100% that day.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And I start out by winning the mornings. If I win the morning, everything else takes care of itself.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so here you are. Do you have like a final date now? Like, that just got extended, but do you have a final date now? What does that look like? Or are you just going to say, hey, I'm not going to stop at 1,000. I'm good with making this global. Or what's your vision now?
Yeah, I mean, that vision, it's until I hit that 100,000 kids, I'm not stopping. And
I would venture to say you're not stopping when you do hit that 100,000 kids.
You're probably right, because it's just gonna keep expanding. But I gave myself a timeline. The one thing I know is when you set a timeline to it, you can work a plan backwards really easily. Right.
Now, if you say stopping, what you mean by stopping is, I'm making a difference for 100,000 kids. I'm educating them. Once I get to 100,000, I'll continue doing 100,000, or like, what do you see happening there? I mean, what does that look like? What is the stopping point?
As long as I'm able to continue to create opportunities, I don't think there is a stopping point, right?
Yeah.
I think the greatest gift that we can give someone is by changing their life. And, there's so much that's happening in our world, right now, like so many things that we don't control. And what I want to do is focus on the things that I do control versus all the things that are going on around me. And what I can control is what I do every single day, how I show up every single day, and who I pour into every single day. And if I just focus on those three things, I know that vision will become a reality. And when that vision becomes a reality, I want it to continue. And what that looks like, I don't know, but I'm hoping that there's going to be another person that feels the same way out of that group that's going to continue that legacy and that's going to continue to multiply it. Because that's all it takes. It takes one person. You go change the life of one person and you can make a big difference.
So, when you talk about stopping, and I just have to come back to this because I don't see you ever stopping. I've had a lot of friends that, have sold companies and gone on to do even more. And I've had a lot of friends that have sold companies that have started playing golf and drinking wine every day. And like that was their day. And it's interesting to see the level of happiness for those that keep growing versus those that try to maintain level. But you can't, if you're not growing, you're actually coasting, and you can only coast downhill, right?
Well, I always say, and I've heard this before, so it's not my line, but I always say that if you're not growing, you're dying.
You're dying. Yeah. Tony Robbins talks about that all the time, right? If you're not growing, you're dying. And so, and what does he mean by dying? I mean, I would say if you're not growing, you're not happy. Yeah. And if you're not contributing, right? Growing and contributing. That's what gives you happiness. So to my point, I don't see you ever giving that up, Sajag.
Yeah, I don't either. And my wife actually jokes about it. She's like, you keep saying you're going to do this. I don't see you ever stopping. Like,
yeah. Why would you?
Yeah.
Because that's what brings you joy.
Yeah. It fulfills me.
Yeah. Glad we're all clear on that.
Yeah.
It's you live a great life. I love it. So let's come back to KW. You work in the offices in Austin. You see Gary probably on a daily basis. Is that right? Gary Keller, for those of you who don't know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, at least on a weekly basis. I see him.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, what's that like working with Gary? I personally think Gary changed this industry forever. I think the future of the real estate industry is teams, and I don't think teams would exist today. Certainly not the way they do if it wasn't for Gary and the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book that he wrote, right?
Yeah, I can tell you this. He's an amazing leader. I don't think I've ever come across someone who can challenge you and cause you to think big and completely change, the way you think about something so quickly as he can.
Yeah.
And it was, I'll give you a simple example. I mean, I just had an interaction with him last week and I thought, okay, yep, we got a great plan together. Went in to present it to Gary, and within a 45-minute time frame, he was able to so clearly cast a vision and a bigger opportunity than what a room full of us even came up with.
Yeah.
And the light bulb went off and I got it. And I was like, holy cow.
Yeah.
Like,
you have no idea how many people I've come across that, whether they're at KW or not, they were at KW at one point or another, but these are people that have all shared with me these stories of sitting in a room with Gary, and Gary got them to see, instead of seeing this, see this. And in fact, if you want to listen to my podcast from this week with Brett Jennings, that's a prime example of that. I mean, he credited Gary, I believe, right on my podcast, to helping him get from here to here, just because of the comment Gary made to him opened him up.
And Brian, I'll share this, that the way Gary thinks and the way that he sees things, it just doesn't apply to real estate. It applies to any business, which is what's phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I read The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, I actually give it to other business owners outside of real estate. And I'll tell them that go read it, go understand the fundamentals of what this book is teaching you, replace anywhere you see real estate with whatever business you're in. And I promise you, it's going to change your life forever.
Yeah.
It's true.
It's absolutely true. And I mean, when Gary's talking about this, he's teaching people how to build a business. He's not teaching people how to build just a real estate business.
That's right.
And I mean, that's true for Sisu. I mean, we brought Sisu into this real estate world and we're focused on real estate, but all of the industries I've been in before, this is how people run their business. So we wanted to help the real estate industry run their business the same way, right? So anyway, but it's so true. I mean, what works to build a real estate team will work, or real estate company, as you guys are doing there at KW Corporate, will work to build any business.
Well, and I think, you know, I'm just going to go back to what you just said about Sisu. I think the reason that Sisu is so powerful is it gives you insight into your business, right? And we always say, like, what you don't measure, you don't see. And Sisu measures so many key metrics that allows business owners to actually get key insights on if the things that they're doing really matter or if they don't. But the biggest thing that we see in real estate is agents think that they're doing more than they actually are.
Oh,
and
yeah.
As a coach, being able to actually put the spotlight on the things that they're not doing helps them so much. But you got to know what to look for as a coach too.
Right. Do you know how many real estate offices I've been into where it was just like everyone was in there just chatting it up, right? Just having conversation. I'm like, you guys come in here to get work done? Because like, if I was going to work in this environment, I would have to go home to get work done because like, I could not work in this environment.
Yeah.
But okay, so let's talk about your new role. We don't have a lot of time left, just a few minutes. So let's talk about your new role at KW. What are you doing now versus, and we didn't really talk about when you first came into MAPS, what you were doing. So maybe just give us, here's what I was doing at MAPS. Here's now what I'm doing.
Sure. So when I came into MAPS, I was the executive director of strategy. So coming in and got into the guts of how the business was built, what was working, what wasn't, revamped a lot of it. And then we were able to get insights from clients on, hey, what's working well, what's not working, right? And we launched this program called the Voice of the Client and the Voice of the Coach. And we were able to find out, like, hey, what's working, what's not, what do they like, what are the things they want us to have? And we were able to go create products and solutions for them for what they wanted. And being able to close the loop for clients and showing them that we're able to launch products based on the needs that they have in their business is helping us change our business model as well. And being able to do the same thing with the coaches and hearing what they want and then transforming the products that we have and the compensation plans has been helping us move closer to having the millionaire real estate coach. In fact, we got 3 coaches right now that 3 years into this model being released will hit the $1 million this year. And that's awesome. Right? Because we every day as coaches, we're helping our clients achieve great wealth.
Yes, absolutely.
And being able to go do that for the coaching community and giving that gift back, again, it's rewarding. It's about them.
Yeah, for sure. So for those of you who don't know, KW MAPS is one of the largest coaching companies in the real estate industry. And you guys do something different than every other coaching company in the industry, and that is you only coach KW teams and agents. Otherwise, you would be much bigger, I'm sure.
Yep. We get asked every day to coach outside of KW, and every day we say no. It's
I'm sure. Yeah. I'm sure. Sajag, what does the future look like at KW? Like, KW has been a leader since they came into this industry and has really, constantly led and came up with ideas and, different aspects, all different aspects of the industry. I know Gary's widely respected across the industry. Like, what does the future look like for KW? Is there anything you can share with us about plans for the future before we let you go?
Yeah, so I can tell you that, my new role that I'm in, I got the privilege of overseeing all these new segments, being the VP of segments, but really they're communities, right? We got luxury, land, commercial. We just launched KW military, sports and entertainment, but all of these niche communities that our agents are already doing business in. And now we're just spotlighting them and providing greater educational opportunities, referral opportunities, and the momentum is building. And with the segment that we launched with KWin, with the expansion network, and then with K-Score being the real estate school, we have an amazing opportunity to change the way that agents do and practice real estate. And instead of being generalists, they're going to have an opportunity to become specialists through our communities. And I think the future and the vision that Gary has of where we're going, I don't know a more disruptive leader that's out in the real estate world right now. And I'm not just saying that because I work for Gary Keller, but I've actually seen it and witnessed it. And I'm seeing the results in the communities that I lead.
Great. Yeah, I'm excited to see where you guys are going, because Gary is so fierce and competitive and has a great vision and is a great leader. So, all right. I know you have another meeting. You need to jump into it. Is there any last advice you would want to leave with our listeners, Sajag?
The last advice that I would get is be clear on who you want to be, where you want to be, and how you want to get there. And what I mean by that is, if you just did this simple exercise, and I'll leave this for the listeners, is go write a letter to yourself on where you're going to be 10 years from today. How old you're going to be, how old the people in your life are going to be, who you're going to be with, who's not going to be with you. Who have you grown into? And there's a series of questions that I ask a lot of people to go through, because a lot of times the things that we do on a day-to-day basis, we don't know where they take us. I ask coaching clients all the time on, where do you see yourself in the next 5-10 years? And they can't answer that question. But when you're clear on where you're going and who you want to become, the choices you make on a day-to-day basis become very easy. And that became very clear to me the more and more I watch Gary, because he's super clear on where he's going to be.
Yes, that is awesome advice. What a way to wrap up. Thank you, Sajag. Thank you so much for joining us on the Grit Podcast today. Thank you to all of our listeners for joining. Please share this episode when you listen to it. I know you all are going to take some really key things from this. So share it out with, your friends and your business partners and whoever else you want. And we will join you all in next week's episode. Thank you for joining today. Sajag, thanks again.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you for joining us on our podcast. If you have an interest in a free 7-day trial of Sisu, go to sisu.co, sisu.co. Make sure that you use the coupon code GRIT, that's GRIT, to waive all your setup fees and receive a 10% discount on your subscription. If you enjoyed listening to this podcast and want to subscribe, search GRIT, the Real Estate Growth Mindset, on iTunes, Spotify, or Podbean. And with that, we'll catch you next time. Take care.